last weeks with our previous Facebook Lives, but we've had wonderful opportunity to interview and get to know some of our Symphony Tacoma personalities. And tonight we decided to do something a little bit different, since it is, after all, concert night. We started these about 5 weeks ago, so this would be a month after we were due to give the world premiere of David Ludwig's Bleeding Pines. And tonight we were actually going to be giving the violin concerto premiere in Tacoma with Symphony Tacoma. Sadly, none of that is happening. We all are socially distanced and sadly not able to be together. And I can't tell you how much I am missing our musicians and our patrons and our dear friends. Social distancing is so hard for everybody, but we feel really fortunate to be able to keep in touch with you tonight in ways like this, with special programs like this. Humans were not meant to be isolated from each other, clearly. And so we've got to do it, and let's just keep on doing everything we can to get back together as soon as possible and flatten the curve. But there's nothing like live performance. It just simply cannot be replaced. Its impact and ability to move people and just get everybody being together. So let's talk about tonight's program. We have two fantastic, wonderful musicians, extremely talented. They are David Ludwig, who is our composer in residence. We've been able to perform one of the 3 works that we were scheduled to perform of his music. And as I said, tonight, if you're just joining us, was going to be our violin concerto with Bella Hristova. They are man and wife. They are married. They are a couple. Please, let's have them join us in the conversation right now. Welcome from Philadelphia, David and Bella. So good to see you.
Hi. Hi, Sarah. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Tell us what this is like for the pair of you being together. It must be wonderful to be together, and also very challenging to at this time. So how are things with you guys?
Yeah, well, I also, hello, Sarah. We're really both very happy to be here. And, you know, it is a challenge. It is hard, but I think we both feel very grateful to have each other, at least 99% of the time. And 99.9. But we've certainly had to work out, you know, our space. We're also lucky to have, you know, enough space so that I can be composing and Bella can be practicing at the same time. And it's just a conversation every day and keeping communication open and, you know, just and being positive as we can. And to that end, it's been actually not bad. We're certainly concerned about the world and people that we care about. But for us too, we're very grateful. Things have been going well.
Yes, our day to day, I just personally have been taking it one day at a time, 1 week at a time. I've been making to-do lists now more than I ever have. And I've been finding that that's actually just really helped me stay on track.
And she's like practicing constantly, which, I mean, I think it's hard right now for people to do work. It's hard for me, but Bella is.
I'm enjoying the
She's using this time, yeah.
That is so inspiring. It's special to have time stand still, and we certainly don't want it for these reasons, but it can bring about a creativity that we wouldn't have otherwise. And for example, we're all learning these new skills. We're all learning how to communicate with each other digitally. And I always think about what life would be like if we didn't have digital communications right now. This would be so much worse for everybody. It's late there in Philadelphia. Thank you for joining us there. You're not in your PJs, I see, so you're up.
No. Well, not on top, at least. Yeah.
Yes. No. We're very happy to join you. It's a little past her bedtime because I've been waking up at 7 o'clock every morning, which is also unlike me. So we're usually in bed by 10:30, 11.
For a violinist to wake up at 7 o'clock, things are different. So, yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. It's a pleasure to have you both with us tonight, even though we're not on stage right now. And
we're very sad not to be on stage with you.
Yeah, likewise. But we will make it happen. We're thrilled that through the National Endowment of the Arts for the Arts, we were able to get funding for David's composer in residency, and we're just now able to just make this friendship, this partnership last longer. And I thank you very much for taking your time to be with us. And it would be wonderful if you'd share with us a little bit about the violin concerto. And I'd also like to invite folks who are watching to comment, to let us know where you've tuned in. Perhaps you're a Schmoopy fan and you're waiting to see one of their delightful cats. So let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any comments or questions for David or myself or for Bella, please post them. We'll try to get them answered as we go along. And meanwhile, I'm going to hand this program over to you to sort of give us a little bit of an insight into this phenomenal piece of music, this violin concerto.
Who starts?
Well, you wrote it.
Okay. I guess I did write it. The piece was a commission originally from 8 different orchestras around the country. And the prompt for the commission, it started with Vermont Symphony, and was a very wide range of orchestras. Kansas City,
Quad Cities,
Rogue Valley, not too far from
Reno
Tacoma, Chamber. And the prompt was our own marriage, because we were getting married
at the time,
and I had been in residence with a couple of those orchestras, and Alan Jordan put it together, who was executive director of Vermont at the time. And I felt like writing something about our marriage was a little maybe Straussian, like it was a little narcissistic. So, but the issue of marriage itself, I think, is one that's very interesting. And the idea of just in general of partnership, of 2 souls committing their lives together, empathy, communion, all things that we could really use, especially now.
Anytime, but especially now.
Yeah, especially now. And so I wrote the piece with that in mind, that it would be a piece about two people, 2 entities, 2 souls joining together. So it's in 3 movements. The first is called Dances. It's the preparation for a marriage. And so it goes through a series of 4 dances. The second movement is called Ceremony. And so it's like a long wedding march. So the before, during, and then after the wedding, that's the third movement. It's called Festival. And that's modeled after a Bulgarian dance called I'm going to pronounce this wrong, and then Bella will pronounce it right, because she actually speaks Bulgarian. It's a Krivo Horo.
Krivo Horo.
I wasn't that far off.
Horo.
Horo.
Krivo Horo.
Krivo Horo.
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 Like the horror.
It's very hard to say. Krivo Horo.
Anyway, so David's punchline is that well, it means crooked dance. And
the third movement is a crooked dance.
It's a crooked dance, and that's how you go home after a really good party.
Right. And so it's the community coming around the 2 people who have been married, who have been partnered. And so, we've now, I think Symphony Tacoma will be, I think, the 10th orchestra to perform it. And, just hearing the recordings from the earlier concerts, and just being able to hear them, they're a fantastic orchestra. And so we're very excited whenever this can come together.
Yes, and we're so grateful that it will happen in the future. We can't wait.
Yeah, it's and I've known Maestro Ioannidis for a long time.
That's right.
But this is our first time really collaborating together and sharing a stage, and of course with Bella. So, Sarah, I can talk. We could play a couple of clips from the piece and maybe talk about it. I can tell you that when we were talking with Sarah beforehand about what would we say, one of the ideas was that I could share some of what the kids would call Easter eggs of the piece, the bits of it that you would never know unless the composer told you. I think every piece of music written, there's something in it that the composer, it's a personal expression that maybe they don't tell people about, and that you wouldn't know about otherwise. So we thought maybe we could do something with that. But how would you like to proceed?
That would be marvelous. I think about the fact that we can do this now and that we have you live on the screen, able to talk to our audience right now as if you're right with us. And I look back on those other concertos written for, well, there weren't too many, right? Written for their spouse.
Yeah, for a composer's spouse. I was thinking about, we were talking Bartok 3, right?
Yeah.
Was for
Beautiful.
Dita, right? And I guess Clara played some of Robert.
It would have been amazing to have them together in a room captured
Yeah.
now, so that we could. So we definitely want to hear those nuggets, those secrets that are in the music that are going to just bring us so much closer to the piece, because you're telling it to us right now, live here. So please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. The piece has a number of dances, so I thought that we could start with the first movement and the end of the first movement, and you'll hear a dance. So both Bella's originally from Bulgaria.
I was born there. I'm half Russian, but I was born in Bulgaria. I grew up there.
My family is Jewish and most all Eastern European. So both of our heritage, this music speaks to our heritage. So I used a lot of Eastern European music in the piece. There's some homage to Stravinsky as well. There's Frankie. It's very distracting.
He wanted some attention.
Okay. Well, don't we all?
He's listening to you speak.
Oh, okay. And so the end of the first movement of the piece is a kind of upbeat. It comes after a big solo part, and it's in an irregular meter, and it kind of assembles itself to the end. So there's Dan Odd and Scott.
Hi, wow. Scott.
Maybe Pamela's here. Okay. So anyway, could we please hear the first clip of the piece? Thank you. So
I was dancing along.
Yes, I don't know if you could hear us like chatting away, but the point of playing that clip is to show some of the Eastern European influence, which is even stronger in the end, and to hear the end, the French horn ends every movement and sustains a note. And my thought about that was that the horn has a bell. And so Bella, every movement ends with Bella's name, basically.
Yeah. That's so sweet.
All right.
We have a question. I see via email about how much input I had in the commission. And so when we knew that the concerto was going to happen, and when it was time for David to start working on it, I really wanted him to write the piece he wanted to write. So I did not want to hear much, right? Did I?
I'm
at the beginning parts.
Agree with
I didn't want to
say.
hear much at the beginning parts because I didn't want him to be influenced by anything I said. Later on in the process, we went through the violin part, maybe briefly edited little things here and there. So I would say I was involved later on in the process. And
then I was highly influenced by what you said after that, I would say.
No, they're just small
Do you see that kind of giggling, that like, me?
They're just suggestions.
What's very funny is that, Bella, like I think a lot of people who play instruments, when they're practicing and, something's tricky or, the fingers don't fall right, there can be perhaps some words, maybe some expletives, not suitable for Facebook Live, but that and then with the name of the composer, like blank Mozart and that kind of thing. But she couldn't do that this time because I could hear her. Yeah. So should we move on to the second movement?
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah, flag us if you want us to stop. Otherwise, we'll keep talking through the piece. The second movement is called Ceremony. And so it begins with this kind of evolving all the violins playing together. But something that was important to me, like I said, lots of Easter eggs, so things that even though the piece wasn't about us, it's about partnership and all those important things. I wanted inside the piece to have personal connections. So Bella never knew her father, but he was a very well-known Soviet composer. He passed away
Russian
when
composer,
you were very young. So Russian composer from the Soviet era. So he wrote a lot of children's music. And actually, if you're of a certain age, you would know his name and you would have grown up singing his
Many people sang
songs.
his songs in the children's choirs. My mother conducted those choirs in Bulgaria. So that's how she knew of him. And that's how she got to know him. And I grew up listening to his music, but I had never heard his violin concerto.
We thought it might
David
be apocryphal. We didn't know if
found
the
it.
violin concerto was going to happen. There's Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Oh, this is just, I know that I'm not the only one thinking this right now. So we want to know, how did you guys meet? Obviously, there's so many bells ringing and commonality with being from a family of composers, and just tell us about that connection, because there's so much synergy between you.
About meeting the first meeting, we knew each other for a while. I had graduated Curtis. We're all connected, of course, with you also from Curtis. You and I were classmates there.
We met at Curtis.
We did,
but didn't know each other well.
Not really at all. And then at Marlboro Music Festival.
So after Curtis, I went to Indiana University for 2 years. And then in 2010, I had planned to move back to Philadelphia. And we were both at Marlboro. And
I would joke with everyone that Bella was moving back to Philadelphia so that we could start dating, which I thought was preposterous. And yet all of our mutual friends kept saying, well, that's actually a really good idea. And so we kind of thought, really? And
I was like, yeah. No, I'm not exactly. Actually, I see another question, and this is related. It says, has David composed any other pieces with Bulgarian influences since the concerto? And I have this vivid memory of one of the first days that we spent time together in Vermont, where we're going to see Jamie Laredo and his wife Sharon Robinson. That's actually where we had our first day by their pool with them there. So it was supervised.
Totally.
But I remember David had these Bulgarian choir recordings in his car, and we listened. So he was obsessed with Bulgarian music, or maybe obsessed is not the right word. He was fascinated by the music and knew a lot of it.
It just kind of worked. And at that very first date, as we left, I looked at Jamie and I said, "Would you give her away?" Because Jamie Laredo had become kind of like a father to Bella and to me too. He had been a great mentor to us both and was Bella's teacher. And he said, "Are you kidding? Yeah, of course." And 5 years later,
then the next time I saw him, they were like, "What's David talking about? Are you guys dating?"
So 5 years later, in their backyard, there we were getting married.
We got married, and Jamie actually officiated our wedding.
Yeah. Steve Tenenbaum gave you away.
Yeah.
So play us more of the piece. What happens next?
Okay, so this second movement, we were mentioning Bella's father. I really wanted to somehow include his work in this piece, almost like a parental witness. Bella was pretty sure he had a violin concerto, but we didn't know. I mean, so actually I did an interlibrary loan. It was at the Northwestern Beanan School, one copy in the United States. They sent it over. I scanned it for reference. And then on Valentine's Day, and then I lifted 13 measures, note for note from it, and put it in the second movement, which you'll hear in this next clip. But I gave Bella a very traditional gift for Valentine's Day, which was a thumb drive, as one does. And Bella plugged it into her computer and said, "Oh, this is my dad. You found my dad's concerto," and opened the PDF. And then she got to the part that she had been practicing all along.
And I had asked him about it. I said, "Oh, what's this part? It sounds like a Russian folk song or something."
Yeah. So we had a good cry. And then all of my friends are like, "How are you going to top that next Valentine's Day? Like, what are you going to do?" So we can hear the second clip, which begins just a bit before her father's music, her dad's violin concerto, and then goes into those 13 bars and then comes out, and we'll hear a little bit of the variations in the movement after that.
Yes, and the second movement, the opening, the melody that David composed at the very opening of that is maybe one of my favorite parts of the piece.
Great.
It's beautiful second movement.
Thanks. So we're back. This is Uni.
That's Uni.
Named after our favorite sushi. She's pretty small, but she's one of the older cats. I'll let her go. There you go. And so I think maybe we'll skip the end of the second movement.
Okay, well, you can tell people about it. I'll tell people about it. At the end of the second movement, there is a beautiful line for a few violin lines, which is probably a number of conductor pages, where the solo violin rises and falls in a melody, and different players from the orchestra, I think the solo cello and bassoon and horn, play around me going the other way, creating these rings. So like
musical rings, like wedding rings. And then the very last, we could play it. You want to play it? It's the third clip. No?
Or whatever.
And then the end of it, that movement, again, we hear the horn with the high violin and playing our initials, the notes of our initials. So, yeah.
Little Bear wants to hear it. This is our
Wow.
sister, and she loves music. So oh, look.
That's Lily, and I have a hair tie with me. And that's the way to call Schmoopy. So if you'll excuse me, Schmoopy! Schmoopy!
And whilst we get the pets together, we should hear that.
And then we'll hear it. Schmoopy! Well,
okay.
Oh, there he is.
You can get Schmoopy. Why don't we play the third clip?
No, people want to see Schmoopy.
Okay, sorry. Before we play the third clip, people want to see Schmoopy.
Schmoopy has fans.
Meet Little Bear.
Wow, Schmoopy and Little Bear together on screen.
Check out the pet channel on Instagram. Schmoopy, what is it?
Schmoopy's World. Schmoopy's World. And he posts, I don't know how because he doesn't really have thumbs, but he manages. And the other cats make appearances too.
Okay, let's play it.
On that note.
Clip 3, it's the end of this slow movement. So those last two notes, those two held notes, are our initials put into music. So yeah.
Breathtaking. So beautiful.
Thank you, Sarah.
What an expression of love that is. We really love seeing the score as well.
Oh, good.
See that we have some people commenting and friends even tuning in as far as Australia. So this is just
Laurie in Australia. Hello.
Laurie and Carol, welcome to you. And is it good morning or is it lunchtime? Well, 24 hours.
Yeah.
Bella will know. Bella's big in the antipodes. She's
I think it's either 1 or 5. I can't remember which way it goes. But it's 3 o'clock in New Zealand.
But actually, that's how things are normally. Right? It's either 1 or 5. We wondered, Sarah, is there time to play just 2 more short clips from the last movement?
Yes, let's take the time. Let's make sure that we give everybody every opportunity to get to know you and get to know this incredible piece of music while we can. So,
Oh, thank you.
I recorded a little bit today for you all. So I think maybe we'll play that next, which is the 5th clip, and then we would end with the 4th clip.
great.
Right.
So what we're going to hear now is the 3rd movement cadenza. And
yeah, the cadenza, it's a solo part where the soloist takes over and the orchestra rests typically. And Bella's going to be playing this crivo horo. So throughout the piece, there's a very kind of orchestral version, my version of the crivo horo, but I kind of boiled it down so that this would be an even more kind of authentic expression of it. And I mean, you own this stuff, this music, and she recorded it right here, actually.
Yeah,
this
just
morning.
a couple hours ago.
Yeah. So clip 5, please. So that's the cadenza. That's where the music kind of has this kind of dramatic solo movement moment. And I added that actually into the 3rd or 4th performance because we played the piece for Joan Tower, and she said she felt like the last movement was a little too short. And when Joan Tower tells you something, you listen. So and then we have one last clip, which is the very end of the piece. But please, Sarah.
Oh,
I know there was a question, and I've been wondering the same. One of our writers tonight said, Bella, did you write any of this? How much did you have to do with writing, if anything? Or do you have any input? How does that work together when you're, in this case, writing a piece in the same building?
yeah. I didn't write much. There were things that I said to David I wasn't too comfortable doing, which is I wanted to know everything that I was going to have to play for it to be on the page. In other words, I didn't want to have to make up notes, or sometimes composers will say just improvise. Well, I'm too uptight to do that, so I'd like to know what I'm supposed to play. And then when we went through the part, there were only tiny changes, like maybe we took a note down an octave or up an octave. I don't know if we had to make it easier or harder.
Probably some of both.
Some of both, yeah.
Yeah. I call Bella my editor-in-chief because even pieces, most of the pieces I write are not for Bella, sadly, but she just is one of the most natural musicians and has incredible instincts. And boy, am I lucky. Boy, did I do well.
Oh,
You did.
We're both lucky.
So did she.
Well, you're
We
pretty
both
lucky. You're pretty lucky too. I mean, let's be honest.
We have another question about the erhu behind me, and I do not play it. That's David's instrument.
That's my erhu back there.
Now, do you play it?
Yes.
Do you play your violin?
No.
How many times have you practiced since you bought it?
So the last clip we thought we'd play, and then we can certainly stick around and answer a few questions if you want to do that, is the very end of the piece. He said, moving on. And so traditionally in these Bulgarian dances, that the third movement is modeled on, there's like a big percussion breakdown. So we're going to let you in right in the middle of that percussion breakdown, and then it's just going to kind of really go breakneck speed to the very end of the piece. So it's about a minute or two long, but again, there's lots of little Easter eggs in it. In the percussion breakdown, you might be able to see it on the score. At one point, the percussionists are improvising, and I wrote more cowbell just to give them a little. I mean, it is a Saturday Night Live talk right now, but just to give them a little something to giggle about. It's stuff people just would never know listening, being in the audience and listening to the piece. So that's why this for us is very special. So could we hear clip number 4, please, the very end? Thank you.
Ending's fast.
I'm sorry. It's supposed to be exciting.
Very fast.
Thank you for that. Yeah, loved it. Loved it. Everybody's loving it. So is there going to be, this is one of the questions out there, Violin Concerto number 2 in the future?
There is already. It's a chamber concerto. Mm-hmm. I wrote for 4 violinists, some of whom Sarah, maybe all of whom. It was co-commissioned by 4 music festivals, but maybe there'll be a 3rd and 4th one. I mean, I adore the instrument. This piece.
I thought there was a 3rd in the works.
Oh, there is a 3rd in the works for Benny.
No,
with Winds. And then, this piece is not, it's a pretty new piece. And so a lot of times composers write pieces and people say, where can I get a recording? Which is very nice. I think there are just a couple of recordings up online. It was just done with Hawaii Symphony. I think they'll be broadcast.
That's going to be broadcast, so we'll post when that happens.
Yeah, so, and they did a lovely job with it.
Joanne.
And I don't know if any of the other orchestras, I think Vermont Symphony does have it online.
Yeah, it's an instant encore.
I don't know if the other, maybe bits and pieces are out there, but we will record it eventually for sure.
Thank you. And David, I wanted to also thank you for continuing to work with Cascade composers. Some of you may not realize that we have Cascade composers as well as Cascade conducting workshops in June, typically. We'll see about this year. And we've selected 6 composers that David is working with on Zoom, who are writing pieces, and we hope very much that Symphony Tacoma will be able to perform that in the near future, as much as we plan to also perform the violin concerto and the world premiere of Bleeding Pines. So we've got all these wonderful things to look forward to. What's it like working with composers on Zoom? How's that worked so far? And when do you think they'll be having their pieces ready for the conductors to show?
Well, it's a really interesting cohort of young composers in this Cascade composing workshop that we're doing. I've met with them now all several times. Many of them are in the Pacific Northwest. A few of them are not, and a few of them are just happen to be where they are. It's been very rewarding. They're fantastic. And we're all learning about writing for orchestra together. You started off by giving us some very good direction. And I kind of said, look, if if Maestro Yanez is saying it, you're going to have to listen because that's the conductor who knows better than anyone. But it's teaching composition is something that actually lends itself pretty well online. And I've always had students, even right now at this moment, I have a student who's in New York, a student who's in China, a student who's in London. Bella has a student in Dubai, and Bella has students actually all over the world right now and is teaching more with this time. So it's an incredible thing, this internet, this series of tubes that someone invented, that allows us to still be able to connect and instruct and share our own mentorship and learn back from our students. So it's been terrific. I'm so excited for the Cascade program. It is a very, very special program that connected to Symphony Tacoma. And I hope more people learn about it because it's a extraordinary opportunity for composers and conductors.
Yes, indeed. These 6 works will be conducted not by myself, but by emerging young conductors in the area. And we'll record those pieces as well. So I thank you so much for your guidance to them. This is a wonderful partnership, and I hope it goes on long. I'm glad for you and the composers that the self-isolation that we need to do is very favorable to creativity, and will produce some extraordinary things. My father is a composer also, and he's writing an opera right now.
Wow.
And every day he's sitting down for hours and just working at it. And I know he's going to finish it, and we'll get to hear that one day too. So it's wonderful that you have this opportunity, and I'm excited to see what will come of it in the world of creativity.
Sarah, I know that we're, overstaying our time limits here, but I'm very curious. It's something I'm asking a lot of fellow artists. How are you taking the time right now in terms of your work? Do you find it hard to work? Do you find inspired? Do you find lots of time to work? Do you have to structure your own days? Like how are you managing?
Well, I'd say it's pretty complicated always, it seems to be. And for me right now, I find myself waking up in the middle of the night with great sort of bursts of creative ideas, and getting up and going to the computer and writing them down, and then the kind of the reality of the day sets in with homeschooling 3 kids, and juggling trombone in this room, and my work and phone calls and Zoom, and scores, and putting away scores that unfortunately I'm not going to be able to conduct for a few months.
Right.
But we're doing well, and we're just sort of praying really that people come through this as well as they possibly can, and that we can get great opportunities for our musicians as soon as possible, because my heart really goes out to all of the performing artists, because I think that's where we struggle at this time. It could be quite a while before we have the opportunity to get together in person. And so I think, Bella, you're just such an inspiration, practicing hard every day.
I'm loving the music. It's like I'm using this time to sort of look inward, I guess, and find out why I do this. And you really have to find that out with no concerts on the horizon. Like, why am I going to pick up the violin today?
Yes.
So it's kind of a
violin. So David,
hidden gift.
You're next.
That's right. You have to pick up your violin too.
Okay. I got it on Amazon.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
For real.
For real, yeah. I have a number of instruments, but that one is maybe not my best. Yeah.
It's a tricky one. Well, I can't thank you both enough on behalf of our audience and our patrons. We can't wait to see you in person. I want to thank our technical director, Susan, behind the scenes here, who's helping us.
Susan.
And maybe, Susan, you could, just so we leave with another beautiful excerpt of David's music, maybe somebody out there can pick their favorite one, and we can choose what to end with. Let's see, maybe Bella, if you see a comment, who's first in line and what would they love to hear, and we'll listen to that as we say goodnight to everybody. Stay well, stay safe, and let's keep the inspiration and the music alive from inside our homes.
Thank you so much,
Sarah, for having us.
Really.
Let's listen to track 3. I'm just going to choose it.
Okay.
It's the ending of the slow movement with the rings and the bells.
Wonderful. That was my favorite too.
Oh.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night,
Thanks
everyone.
for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. I think Susan's going to play it any moment. Actually, it's a bit unfair to throw that on at the last minute.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Susan wasn't expecting us.
I thought maybe if I froze, it would look
you
like...
know what?
Like we froze.
I'm going to suggest everybody share this post. We want David's music out there, and then rewind and go back and listen to that. And that way you'll hear it right there and then. So
Excellent.
And listen to more of his music. He's got a wonderful website. There's so much to learn about David's music. It's just a huge, huge library of self-published. Hats off to you for that. But thank you for making excerpts available for people to listen to.
Of course. Thank you so much, Sarah. I could definitely use the YouTube subscribers too. And it looks like Susan has worked her magic and has the clip up. So.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks
Can't wait
so
to be
much.
together.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.